Now, this shift in Trump's policy, what impact will it have?
Well, I think the Trump administration has been quite clear about retreating from major global commitments that America has made under both Republican and Democratic presidents quite prominently since World War II, to lead the world in the humanitarian effort to serve those in need, to work to end extreme poverty around the world by investing in, it was George W. Bush that created the big effort that saved millions of lives from HIV/AIDS. President Clinton created a program that helped save millions of children's lives from immunizations because of broad immunizations. And President Obama, when I served for him, helped put in place agricultural programs that moved 40, 50 million people out of poverty and hunger. So I do think that these policies are a threat to the global aspiration to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and end extreme poverty on our planet once and for all.
What's most at risk? Who's most at risk? Because a lot of African countries in particular are pretty concerned because U.S. aid has been pretty critical to them.
Well, it's certainly that's a big risk. There are 1.1 billion people around the world that live in extreme poverty, the vast majority of whom don't have access to electricity. There's 6 million children a year that die of simple diseases like diarrhea, pneumonia, at birth, neonatal complications from childbirth. All of these are very easily prevented, and what we found is when we help save children's lives, when we help ensure kids are well nourished, when we make sure kids get educated, it helps create the pathway to growth and prosperity that we've seen in this part of the world in Southeast Asia. I would note that 40% of the world's children who live in those conditions still live in Asia. So it's not just an African challenge, it's a global challenge. And America and the rest of the world needs to hold hands, public sector and private sector, to solve poverty as we know it.
I'm wondering, though, how much will U.S. soft power be had at a time when China is stepping up, at a time when the likes of AIIB, with its Belt and Road policy, the China Development Bank, are, I guess, gaining and expanding their foothold?
Well, I do think this is a step backwards in terms of U.S. application of its power overall. It's not just soft power, it's smart power. And it's the ability to demonstrate our leadership and our values through our commitments to each and every person around the world. I would note the following, though, that there have been times like this in our past. And the American people are particularly tough and resilient. And America is fortunate to have a rich culture of philanthropy. Today I represent the Rockefeller Foundation. But American philanthropy around the world is accelerating. And what we find is that really smart, structured public-private partnerships can help make a huge difference for millions of people, families, children all around the world if done well.
Can help, but can they fill the gap?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The scale of the cuts proposed in American foreign assistance far outstrip all of American philanthropy. But what they can do is they can show what's possible and they can inspire people on both sides of the aisle. When I was in government working and leading U.S. aid for President Obama, we actually passed legislation in a bipartisan way at a tough time in American politics to feed people around the world, to fight hunger through agricultural research and investment, to improve the health of children around the world, and to bring power and electricity to the more than billion people who live without it. And those are all priorities that the Rockefeller Foundation also pursues, often in partnership with governments here in Asia and around the world.